Hi, everybody. Dan Illman, Mike Beer taking a look at the co-feature on Friday's card at Saratoga. The main event's the Personal Ensign featuring Idiomatic and Randomized. But race number 5, kicking off a mandatory payout, pick 5, $150,000 Smart and Fancy. 5.5 furlongs on the Mellon Turf Course. 7 entered for grass. The 8, Everyone Loves Linda, is entered for main track only. Roses for Debra is the 6-5 morning line favorite, but it's not like she can't be had, Mike. She was beaten by Future Is Now when they last met in the Intercontinental.
Yeah, it seemed like she was beaten fair and square in that spot too. Not that she didn't run a perfectly fine race, Dan, but she didn't really have any excuse not to win. She decided to pass on the caress. Several of these fillies or mares were back in the caress earlier in the meet. Roses for Debra was entered there. She was going to be the favorite there. She scratched. She turns up here instead.
Let's throw up the Timeform US pace projector. If the 6 Munnys Gold makes her turf debut in this race, she is going to show speed. She is also cross-entered in a stakes race on the dirt at Saratoga on Travers Saturday. We know Future Is Gold is fast, and she might not be have the most quality of the speeds. Lady Milagro is quick. Not sure she's as good, though, as a horse like Future Is Now if they're battling for the front.
We'll see how they decide to play with Future Is Now, who's very fast if they want to go, Dan, but she's also proven that she can sit a little bit if she has to. Munnys Gold, you're right. If this is where they decide to run her, I guess their only option is to go with speed in this race. But Lady Milagro, whether you like her or not in here, Dan, and she'll be a big price, she has one way to go in this race, and that's to go for the lead.
The horse with the fastest late Timeform US pace rating is the 3-star Guest. You note that from the LP designation over her Chicklet. She showed a little bit of tactical speed overseas, but didn't break very well in her North American debut. Kicked on for 6th in the Caress. Keep an eye on her if the pace is hot. Keep an eye on the 1, Don't Look Back at All, because she is in raging form for Christophe Clement. She's won her last 3, including the Caress, and I thought she looked very good doing it. She is just traveling sweetly right here under a Rad Ortiz, who hasn't asked her for her best at all. Now eases into the clear. It's getting late early, fans of Don't Look Back at All are saying, but Arad's got this measured.
He does. I agree with that take on this race wholeheartedly, Dan. She was very confidently ridden right down to the 8th pole before Irad steered her out and let her run, and she did the rest. A really, really strong performance. Her form is excellent right now. She'll be a little bit of a shorter price in this race, Dan, but I don't think she'll be too short in here. If you like her, I don't really see any reason to get off, although Irad got off because he's going to ride the favorite.
Lady Milagro is the number 2, and she's back to her preferred surface after showing speed and tiring in 2 off-the-turf efforts at Saratoga. They ran her in the Intercontinental against Future Is Now. She wasn't quick enough to get the lead. All in all, I think the trip was there for her, but I think she's at her best when she's on the lead. She might be a need-the-lead type. I just think they're sending and hoping for the best.
Absolutely. I think that's exactly how they'll ride her as well. She has to be on the front to deliver her best performance, and she's got a pretty good one in her, Dan, when things go her way. She's not really this kind of a horse. She's going to need to catch at least a break and probably 2 or 3 breaks if she's going to upset this field.
Star Guest, the number 3, was the beaten favorite last time out in the Caress by Don't Look Back at All. She came into the race with good form overseas for Appleby and Godolphin, and those connections speak for themselves. She didn't break as sharply as I expected. She was pretty wide into the stretch. It looked for a second like she was really going to kick on at the 3/16 and then finished in a one-paced manner.
Yeah, didn't love that performance. Maybe that's not the trip that they envisioned for her, not the trip they wanted for her. And she was a little wide there when they came into the stretch. I don't know, Dan. I just didn't think that she ran that well. And that was kind of my take on her overseas as well. I mean, I realized that once they cut her back and concentrated on sprints, that her form picked up. But I didn't really love either of the wins over there. Certainly the first one, she just had a super soft trip winning on the lead that day. I saw no excuse for her off the layoff there in the stakes race. I don't know. I'm starting to wonder how good she actually is. And these horses always get bet.
The favorite is Roses for Debra, and deservedly so. Just look at her record against fillies and mares on the turf. It's exceptional. Her win in the Giants Causeway, her seasonal debut, showed that she did return as a 5-year-old in just as good form perhaps at 4, although she did have a very good trip in that race, sitting in the pocket, easing out and winning. Here's the Intercontinental. Well, we'll show that a little bit later behind Future Is Now. She's had another good trip. She's very tactical. She's not a speedball or a one-run closer. She can sit in mid-pack. She made a move. Future Is Now just rebuffed her late.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, listen, Roses for Debra is just really good. Her turf sprint form and her synthetic sprint form even is just really, really good. And her top race is probably too good for these horses, Dan. I liked her return at Keeneland. I thought she ran, perfectly fine in there. It did get a big figure. But I'm sort of with you on the Intercontinental. I mean, she had a great trip in that race. She had every chance to win. And Future Is Now, in my opinion, just ran better than she did and turned her away at the end. It was still a good performance for Roses for Debra. I'm sort of torn here, Dan, because I do think she's the horse to beat, but I wanted to bet against her in the Caress before they scratched her, and now they turn up here with her. She's going to be the favorite again, and I kind of want to bet against her again, even though I think she's the best horse.
Glitter Up is the number 5, and this seems like a little bit of a tough spot. She hasn't run since February, but she has shown some early speed in the past. Perhaps she can be a part of the pace picture, reuniting with Dylan Davis, especially being fresh off of the layoff. We haven't seen her since that ladies' turf sprint at Gulfstream, and she faced a very sharp horse that day. The winner came back to win a stake at Gulfstream with a 93 buyer. Needs to prove that she's at this level of horse.
Yeah, she's got a lot to prove against these kinds of horses. She's actually pretty good. I don't know if she's actually this kind of a horse. Then she was facing a pretty hot horse there earlier or over the winter down at Gulfstream Park, and she ran fine in those races, but she was no match.
The 6 is Munnys Gold. Turf debut if she runs here for Todd Pletcher. Has run plenty of fast races on the main track. She started her career with 3 consecutive blowout wins, 2 with triple-digit buyers, and her seasonal debut on dirt during the Belmont Stakes Racing Festival at Saratoga resulted in a 98 buyer win. Beaten favorite, however, when wired in the honorable miss. Not a ton of turf pedigree here.
Didn't see really, any turf pedigree, which worries me. It makes me feel like it's a bad sign that Pletcher's even looking at this race for her again. I wouldn't necessarily be too hard on her for the honorable miss last time. That was a pretty stupid ride that she got in there, just sort of conceding the lead to the winner, and they weren't going faster. I'm not sure. All of her good races are when they just use her speed and let her go, but they didn't do that last time, and she paid the price. The other thing that you really have to concern yourself with, though, Dan, is she's 4 for 4 with Lasix on, and they're all fast races, and her other 4 starts aren't that good.
Future is now very game to win the Intercontinental over Roses for Debra. Maybe not the quickest first step out of the gate that day, but recovered almost immediately to prompt the 3rd place finisher from the outside. Got the jump on Roses for Debra, held sway, and in the Caress, she was involved in a prolonged pace duel while Don't Look Back at All set a candy trip in behind and in between, and she was only beaten a half length. Boy, Michael Trombetta's done a great job with this one.
He really has. She's in great form right now. And listen, she showed that she can rate 2 and 3 starts back, so maybe she'll get that trip this time. That just kind of wasn't available to her in that last race thing because she made the lead. It looked like nobody else was going to go, and then all of a sudden they came after her, and she wound up really battling on a fast pace in there. I thought actually she ran really well again in that race, even though she didn't win. I like her recent form. I can see a better trip coming in this race.
Date as Everyone Loves Linda. She has entered main track only. Would obviously be very tough if this race is unfortunately washed off of the grass and onto the dirt. Here are our top selections for race number 5 at Saratoga on Friday, the Smart and Fancy. You're going with Future Is Now, the 7. She's going to be right there when they turn for home, if not outright in front.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing her right on the lead there, at least at the top of the stretch, Dan. I don't know. I just like her recent form. She's going to be a better price once again than Roses for Debra is, and I'm going to take her on top.
Roses for Debra, I think, can get back on the beam in here, sitting in the second flight or so with her usual trip and providing a strong kick. I might want to use the 1 Don't Look Back at All a little bit, at least defensively in the multis. Visually, she was so super impressive, and she deserves an opportunity to show what she can do against better horses. 7-4-3-1 for Mike, 4-1-7-3 for me. And the Smart and Fancy, it's Personal Ensign Friday on Travers Week at the Spa.